There are many different HTML5 tags, but we're going to talk about the structural tag, and we might talk about the figure tag a little bit. So let's go into it. Let's start out with this elusive main tag. I hear about all the other tags, but this is a new one to me. Use it, research it. I'm not seeing it a lot. In first thing I do when I go to the New York Times website is I look at the code before I read the news, and I'm not seeing the main tag show up in anybody's code. But anyway, the main tag is where you put all your stuff in the main tag. Some people would call it like the wrapper, the container. Everything goes in there. Nothing should go outside of the main tag if you should decide to use it. Now, let's go into the header tag. As you can see, the header defines a header for the document or a section. Now, most of us coders are used to having one header. This is the header. This is the top of the page. I'm going to put an image in here. I might even put my navigation in the header. But the header, they say, is the opening for a section. So you can have multiple headers, and we'll talk about sections in a bit, but it sounds as though any section may be kicked off with a header. So a header is not only a header, but it's the beginning, kind of like an introduction to a portion or some segue to a portion of a different part of the page, and you can have multiple headers in a page. The footer, I'm going to say, is similar to a header in that you can use multiple footers in a page. Is kind of the wrapping up, where we talk about the author, maybe some copyright information, maybe some links about whatever little area that we're closing off, but similar to the concept of a header. Most of us, people that write code, we make web pages. The footer, that's the thing down at the bottom of the page. No, not with HTML5. With HTML5, the footer wraps up a section of the page. On a side note, this is a little strange, but the figure tag, and you can see it being used down here. Figure, you can drop images in there. You can put, illustrations, diagrams, photos, code listings, etc. The figure tag, and I've got an image tag in here, blah, 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 blah. The figure tag. Machines talking to machines. I'm really curious to see how this works out with my SEO using the figure tag. The section tag. Now, this is where the specs get a little shady. I'm going to say shades of gray. But sections, some people say they're like chapters. Now, why would they throw in they're like headers or footers? Whatever. But sections, I'm going to stick with the concept of chapters. We write about this, next chapter. We write about that, next chapter. They're related within a document, but not separate from the document. They go from one to another, all relating to each other. And each section may have its own header and or footer. So as you go from chapter to chapter, section to section, these all work together, kind of like a little mini book, all related together as a whole. The section tag. Now we go to the article. The article is something that it could be published all by itself. You may have this section talking about this, and that. It's all related, but the article, that could be an independent thing. So you're in this chapter, and then you start talking about Jim Bob planting corn. Okay, well, so you write it, Jim Bob, yeah, you're in the chapter, but then you take this thing over here, Yeah, it's related to the section that you're in, but it's about Jim Bob planting corn. It could be an independent article. So, and again, it's very shades of gray, trying to help machines talking to machines. Now, here's something that really kind of sort of makes sense. Aside. Well, you have the article, Jim Bob's planting corn. Okay, but that's kind of related to the section. But the aside, that's just like, hey man, that's like, oh, and then the aliens came down and they took everybody's cars. Nobody could see. Okay, that's an aside. That has nothing to do with Jim Bob and his corn. That has nothing about the section we were writing about. It's just some, whatever you did that night, and then this came up in your head. Bam! It's an aside. It has nothing to do with anything. A picture of a note from your mother or something like that. An aside. So now, finally, Nav. Now, Nav, sure, links, but Nav, they say, is for your major portion of links. Sure, many times at the top of the page we'll have, or on the left side or right side of the page, we'll have major navigation sections. Now, you may have your major navigation sections, but then within a page, you may have a couple of links here, a couple of links there. Those are not supposed to be wrapped in a nav tag. Nav tags are for major navigation, and then for a couple of links here and there, going to some aside about the spaceship. Those would just be links. Whatever you want to do with those, the machines don't care. So there you go. Those are structural tags, and it's they say that machines are reading these. They say that Google is reading these, and Google still hasn't come out and said, hey, we're paying attention to these. I mean, Google has to pay attention to billions of websites. I'd say only probably maybe less than 5% of people are using these things on the planet, so Google can't jump in full force, but it's going to happen when Google, and it'll be interesting to see what Google does and what they pay attention to as far as headers, footers, navs, sections, aside, etc., etc. In our next chapter, we'll actually go into Dreamweaver, and we'll use the Insert drop-down menu to insert these structural HTML5 tags, and then finally we'll start adding IDs and classes in the Dreamweaver environment. And if you're sick of going from video to video to video, give me a call, and we can have a one-on-one private class anywhere, English-speaking planet Earth.